Hi, I'm Sterling Hart, and this is Dreamlight, where we work with dream interpretation and using the insights in the waking life. There are a number of methods for dream interpretation that apply structures or systems of meaning that you can use for the dream. Things like the idea of the shadow being present in the dream, or that the left hand is the feminine side. While some of these ideas are useful, for instance, that a person in your dream represents an aspect of yourself, others are less useful. Today I will point out some of the things that I find less useful and why. You don't want to corrupt your dreams, trampling over them with preconceived ideas and agendas. The first is using Jungian type structures when you are not really doing Jungian psychology. Carl Jung was a student of Sigmund Freud and created a type of analytical psychology focused on the key concept of individualization. One of his fields of inquiry was dreams, and he had a structure in which dreams could be interpreted. This included elements such as the ego, the anima, which to him was the female aspect of self for men, and the animus, the male aspect of self for women. He also said there was a shadow, which was the repressed feelings and movements of the self. The problems with it in dreams are not really about his work. They're about using some of them as structures for interpretation. If we were looking at a dream, seeking the ego to be represented in the dream, or the anima or animus, we will eventually find them as our mind will start to speak to this over time. But largely this pushes things onto the dream. If a woman in your dream is automatically your feminine side, you will have to define what that is. This is something that is fraught with difficulty. Women's rights and roles across cultures are obviously changing and have changed, and most people differentiate the roles less than they used to. They are subject to different competing agendas. Of course, male roles have changed right along with them. My friend had a repeating dream element of a woman he couldn't see. She would be behind a wall, or he would just miss her, or there would be a woman that he thought was her, but it turned out he was mistaken. When he looked at these dreams, this really wasn't about his feminine side or its characteristics. It had to do with his mother left his father when he was too young to remember her. Sometimes she would appear in the dream, usually for him as a sign that he was afraid of the future. For him, it was always a woman because his mother left, not his father. Not because he was dealing with how he might be like his mother. She represented an uncertain future, not a mom or a woman. Another version of this is mapping out the body with association. Sometimes this is useful as a starting point when used skillfully. For instance, I have a recurring dream symbol of shoes. This is often a symbol dealing with my path through life or my vehicle, such as what my job means to me. In one dream, I looked down and saw my right foot with a bright red shoe stepping in mud, and it didn't get dirty. Now, it was my right foot, and in some systems, the right side of the body would be masculine, and that would mean it has to do with my male side of my personality, and there is a whole host of associations with it. The decision-making aspect, the one in control that goes out into the world. But on examining the dream, the shoe, and not getting dirty, and the taking of one step, not seeing myself walking, but just the one step. Even looking down was important. But the right foot, not so much. The reason why this can lead you astray is that it takes you out of the context of the dream and starts you examining your gender association. The dream was about a shoe, my work, not about gender issues or qualities organized around gender issues. Now, if you lived from 1875 to 1961 in Switzerland that legalized women's right to vote in 1971, you might see this differently. Or you may be organized around the basis of having strong gender rules, in which case it would be very appropriate to use this type of technique for your interpretation. But there tends to be a reach for the defined meaning first before examining what the symbol means to you personally. That's where you get into trouble. Where it might work better is to think in terms of the wrist means flexibility, but it is also the connector to the hand, which is a very rich symbol. Usually something like flexibility, on examining it, it will be obvious whether that applies or resonates with you as you work with the questions and associations. But you're always better off starting with the first associations you have with the actual symbol. Another one is the idea of the shadow. This is essentially about the things we avoid and distract ourselves from and refuse to deal with. This is a useful idea, and many people do things to distract themselves from their own problems. Things like lashing out at others in order to not deal with their own emotions, desiring something and not wanting to admit it, or a desire that is rooted in the power to buy something in order to avoid dealing with the feeling of the lack from money problems. If I can buy it, I'm confident, I'll be okay. This means you feel powerful and don't feel the anxiety of the money problem. a temporary solution that makes it worse. But the problem arises when you start the interpretation assuming there is some element like this. It can lead to pushing an agenda rather than examining the dream. It twists things to try to fit the category. It's like constantly asking the question of what is wrong with me? It would be better to ask, where can I make progress? This is not all that different from treating all dream elements as having a message, or treating it as prophecy. The key is to look at the dreams and ask questions. What do you associate with this dream element? And then following the material that arises. If you are stuck, or in order to maybe develop things further, you could start looking to common sayings, such as if someone dreams of a person's neck, you can think pain in the neck, or neck and neck, or cultural ideas as you need to explore. These either will strike you or not, and you can move quickly. Sometimes people overdo these and make each symbol an inventory of every association with the dream element, rather than looking for how it relates to your waking life. The inventory is useful. It is a kind of brainstorming. It can help creativity, but it can also be a way of avoiding looking at the dream, a kind of shadow. If you got something out of this video, please hit the like button. If you want more dreams, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, consider supporting me on Patreon. Till next time.